welcome everyone. I'm Britton Trice with Garden District Bookshop. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome everyone tonight. And it's my distinct pleasure also to welcome Tara Shaw and to help celebrate the publication of her new book.
You know, I am so excited to be invited by you and to be part of the panel here and with my group of friends from New Orleans.
But anyway, a lot of you all know Tara already, but Tara has been bringing in European antiques for what, 20 plus years now, and dealing with many of the major designers around the country. Tara also has her own line of furniture called Maison, and also has a line of furniture at Restoration Hardware. Is that correct, Tara?
Right, that's correct.
So anyway, and then just getting ready to open a brand new store and location. So in the old National Hobby Shop. So glad to see that building coming of use, and I know you're looking forward to having that opened up.
Right, you're absolutely right. It's been a labor of love, like everything is.
And anyway, Tara is welcome, is very generously offered to sign any books. If people want to get personalized books, they can either call the bookshop or order the book online, and we'll be happy to get that taken care of, getting Tara to sign those for everyone. So anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Tara, and Tara's going to have a presentation with a slideshow and tell us about her work. So Tara, we're really excited, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Britton, so much for having me. What I really wanted to accomplish when I started writing Soul of the Home, Designing with Antiques, was sharing the passionate journey of finding yourself through furniture. It's really, I wanted to provide a shortcut to helping others add antiquity to their own home and to design projects. If you're a designer, I believe in anchoring a room with a hero, which I talk about in one of the chapters. And what a hero means is that it's a one-of-a-kind find. It will really hold court in that room. And then you work around the hero with contemporary and mid-century pieces to have your home read like your own biography. My first chapter in the book is starting an antique collection. When I had the money to buy one nice piece of furniture, I didn't want to make a mistake. I wanted a piece of furniture that would have longevity in my home, that I could use in one room, maybe move to another room, but I was totally perplexed. I did not know if I was Louis XIII, Louis XIV, country French, Swedish. So I went on the journey to really discover those styles. And in this chapter, in starting an antique collection, I talk about styles that I use in just a continuous basis, whether it's Louis XIII, XIV chairs for office chairs, or just beautiful 18th century mirrors that will anchor a contemporary vanity. So I wanted to decode the language of European furniture. This is Louis XV, and the armoire that you see in this photo was really the first piece of furniture that I purchased. I went out looking for a desk because I had piles of paperwork and I wanted to glamorously do my work, but I fell in love with this armoire. It was love at first sight, and I brought it home with me. I think it's very important to listen to your heart, and I never regretted it. This armoire lived in my living room and it housed all my media, but today it's in my cabana and I use it for storage for guests. So I want you to tune in to following your heart, because I believe that's the way you get the well-collected home. This is another favorite, Louis XVI. I love the straight lines. In fact, this period of furniture really works so easily with contemporary furniture because of the clean lines. This is Empire. I really have an affinity for Empire chandeliers. They feel very minimal but opulent. The lines are very straight, but yet, if you look at some of the pieces, you're going to see Josephine's love of swans or Napoleon's Egyptian quest. Swedish is really a go-to for me. I feel that it's like the crisp white shirt in furniture design. It's classic, sophisticated, but relaxed. Italian, I have a love of Italian lighting and accessories. That armoire is faux bois. It's painted faux bois, so it's really wood. And what I love about the Italians is they have the most incredible painting techniques that you really don't find in other countries. Now, this is mid-century. I feel for a collected home, it's very important. I use a lot of contemporary seating, but my heroes are typically one-of-a-kind finds, meaning they were carved or made for one individual, and you really won't see those again. But I supplement around those heroes with blue chip mid-century. I live in New Orleans. This is my home near Audubon Park. I bought it in 2004, and it's really been my test kitchen. This is the foyer of the home, and you're going to see that I probably have painted, I've painted everything in my life that didn't move. In fact, I've ended up having my whippets have paint on them during some of these painting fests I've had. But it has Venetian plaster. It's anchored with a 24-arm Venetian chandelier. But it's just the mixture and the dialogue of the different countries that make your home feel collected. Antiques show their age and history, blemishes and all. That kind of imperfection is a lovely thing to live with because it's just so forgiving. It's just what I want to come home to. This is Brother Luca. He's our whippet. He's 10 years old. He's sitting on a Swedish day bed, but you're going to see to the right is a Louis XIII, XIV transitional chêne or French oak armoire. That is really the hero in the room, and that started the conversation to the other pieces that were layered in. Now, this is the alcove of the same room, the living room, and you're going to see the mid-century Arne Norell Swedish chairs anchoring a 18th century heavily marquetried table. My design philosophy has always been to seek out the one-of-a-kind pieces that speak to me and then edit, edit, edit. You have to pare things down to give your collected pieces the spotlight. This is my office, and I didn't build the house. The house was built about 25 years ago. This is Pecky cypress, and I just layered in an Italian dining table, put a piece of glass on top and made it my office desk. You're going to see more Swedish mid-century. But in this room is the conversation between the Louis Philippe daybed that has the clean lines, the Italian scribant, which is the secretary, Italian table, Swedish, and then the French little mid-century arrow table. So I don't necessarily work in one country. what I love is the layering of all the European influence too. And of course, great furniture made in the USA. We do a lot of custom seating because, you know, your room should be practical, and practical for me is always comfort. My bookcase it started with a collection, a large collection of Voltaire. And then I started layering in books, vellum books on subjects that really interest me, whether it's old scriptures or nature. So I believe in collecting in large series. And this is also a box collection. It just, you know, it's one of the things I love to look for when I'm on a trip, which makes it so much more fun. My dining room. Now, the dining room, I created what I wanted to be my backdrop. I call it my little jewel box. The ceiling is silver leaf. The walls are fine paints of Europe, which is a very reflective paint. And this was a red antique floor. And so I sanded it down and I painted it with a porch and deck paint. So what makes the dining room feel current for me is the layering in of contemporary. There are contemporary totems that are in a clay. Then there is the contemporary sculpture that's on top of the 18th century console. So for a room to not feel like it's of the period, I think it's very important to layer back in contemporary art and accessories so it feels current and alive. This is what I call the builder's kitchen. Now, it wasn't a bad kitchen, but you know, it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. So what I did was, the first thing I did was to make it feel like it had connectivity to the rest of the house, was add the 18th century Italian lanterns. You know, I'm fortunate to have a second fireplace in that kitchen, and over that limestone fireplace is an antique urn. There's an 18th century dining table, but also the thing that makes that work are the current Italian cab chairs. Here's another view. It's anchored with a Louis XIV chandelier. The clock is Swedish. The encoignure, or the corner cabinet, is Swedish, but you're going to see the layered mix of contemporary back through with the antiquity, so you have a vibrant home. An upstairs foyer where you see contemporary art mixed with the Swedish and Italian pieces. Probably this is the quote in the book that I've gotten the most feedback on from women. Give up the idea that your interiors will ever be done. It's self-evident when you really think about it. Would you wear the same exact outfit for the rest of your life? Why would you want your house to? Now, usually they'll say, I showed this quote to my husband and he didn't agree with it. Well, you know what I love about buying good things, things that, you know, you've fallen in love with and you're passionate about, to anchor a space, is those things are not trendy. They're not going to be out of style in 5 years. If you really want to reinvent your home, which I do all the time, I move my furniture around. This is my master bedroom. It has that's part of my bed collection. It's a two-tone canopy bed in a high gloss. And my husband loves the whole canopy effect. He's never really complained about the moving of furniture. In fact, one day he pulled up, I'll never forget, his name is Robbie Walsh. He's a New Orleanian, and he's an attorney with Jones Walker, but he pulled up and he said, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was at the wrong house," because really I had flipped all the furniture around. So I thought that was so funny, but never complained. So in the bedroom, you're going to see a mix of the contemporary bed. The art is licensed with Restoration Hardware. It's intaglio cameos. I love 7 roller chairs, which were the Italian chairs that flank the high gloss table that's also in our furniture line. But the anchor piece in that room that really hides the huge television that we watch every night is the Empire Armoire. The seating is Swedish. Bedrooms are a retreat from the rest of the house and the world, and there's something incomparably comforting about canopy beds, instant safe haven. There you're going to see a Louis XVI commode to the left with an Italian mirror. Swedish bench anchors the foot of the bed, but it's the mixture of the new and old that I really love. This is my bathroom. Now we have a Jack and Jill, so this is to the wing to the left, and when I bought the house, it had a giant jacuzzi, and it was the first thing I removed from the home. And this paneling I had in my warehouse, so I built an alcove in my bathroom. And so I would have the backdrop to the contemporary soaking tub. The chandelier is Italian, so there is the mixture of the new and old together. All the fixtures in the house, I had replaced them with German graph fixtures, so they're chrome. So that really is the play, the jewelry, the contemporary, the minimal that ties back. My vanity is 18th century French. Above the vanity is a Venetian mirror. Those are RH sconces. The vessel is made from an 18th century Italian mortar bowl. The hallway, as you enter the foyer of the home, if you look up, I had this wallpaper hand painted, and then I did the color, the thread in that weave called tangled in the wall color. So what I wanted is the impact of the contemporary feel as the backdrop to that large 24-arm Italian crusty chandelier. I'm in love with Swedish. What can I say? This is a guest room. I wanted to give the guests a place they could write their notes, or just a different feel. You know, when you're traveling and you stay in someone's home, it's always nice to have something that's very unexpected, not like your own home. The guest bedroom, again, anchored with the Empire bed. The mirrors are a pair of, they're really not a pair, they're an almost pair of Gustavian Swedish mirrors. And then the rear, you see antiquity and vintage just layered throughout the yard or garden. So we now have a duck called Sister that is a baby mallard that's 14 weeks old. That is her playground. So we found her under the bird feeder, and she's brought us so much joy during this, you know, difficult time. So the layering back, so there's connectivity from the exterior to the interior of the home. You're going to see vintage jardinières and garden jardinières on planks. So there is continuity from the entrance at the gate all the way through the home. Now, next will be a slide about a Victorian, but as delectable as Victorian houses may look from the outside, they can sometimes be complex indoors. The challenge lies in creating fluid, functional spaces that feel vibrant and complement the house's original allure. It is so charming from the curb. I know if you love or live in the Garden District, you know, it is magical. As you enter into this home from the foyer, it really, you know, Victorians, this was like a shotgun on one side. You enter the foyer, you have to walk through the dining room to get to the kitchen. And then to the right are the double parlors. So we wanted to make this house as vibrant as the owners were. They had a large art collection, and really that was the thread of continuity throughout the house, was the color and the vibrancy of the paintings. So what I did in the dining room, let's see if it's in the next slide. This is in one of the double parlors where you see their art, a beautiful 18th century Italian console, and a garden urn. You know, I love to add garden in interiors because it gives it a very relaxed feel. There are just details of items in the foyer. This is the double parlor. You're going to see the contemporary art collection. My favorite, one of my favorite sets of chairs are 7 rolla chairs, which are the iron chairs that are mid-century. This is the dining room I'm talking about. So this would be the passageway really to get to the kitchen. It's like a shotgun. So what I did here is, this is Zubair wallpaper, and these scenes fit perfectly in the dining room. And what it did was it made the dining room a destination instead of a pass-through. The chandelier is mid-century Italian or new Italian. The table is new. The chairs are directoire, flanked by Louis XIV.
The key for the double parlor was to make it feel like one large room instead of the 19th century purpose. Now, I love seeing in the second half of the parlor the repetition of the forms of Hunt Sloan's painting, then with the contemporary bronze sculpture that looks like it has rabbit ears as well. On the detailed section, you know, we focus on the art, but I want to talk about really the layering of the periods. There is 18th century Louis XV French in the decor. The chairs in front are Maison Jansen, which are really mid-century French chairs. It's the layering of the 18th century antiquity back with the mid-century and the contemporary, the marquee chairs that are 19th century with a current Missoni pillow makes it feel vibrant.
So the bedroom has a French cornice, a mid-century chandelier. Really the rock star in the room is that 18th century Italian mirror over one of our contemporary consoles that we fabricate in the city of New Orleans. So the next home is a blur between gardens, inside and out. You know, it's a sublime way to live. So as you enter into the foyer of this home, we used just a rattan chair, and we balanced that with an Italian console with their daughter's art. And this family had this incredible pair of paintings that were at the top of their stairwell. So what I did was I brought those paintings down into the main living area. You know, you just never know. You need fresh eyes sometimes to look at the things that you've collected along your journey. But so it was very important to bring them down. I think they were some of the most important pieces they had ever purchased. And I believe it just made the living room. This is a contemporary French sofa, a Swedish daybed, contemporary chair. Just, it mingles well with the 18th century art. The other view of the room, So they just love Europe. And so a lot of these things are things that they had collected or we had reinvented. And it really, our jumping off point was the armoire. They said to me, we're in love with your armoire. Could you please find one like it? So of course, there's really not the exact when you're working with a one-of-a-kind find, but I think it's always so helpful when clients really know what they love. Garden antiques, especially those boasting plenty of patina, can make great indoor furnishings because they tend to have important monumental scale and exposed to the elements sensibility that's a tonic inside the home. So the dining room is an exterior table that we added a 5-centimeter marble to. And then the enfilade, which is a serving piece, is a mid-century ebonized piece with contemporary art, Italian chandelier layered back in with Swedish and a little African stool. You know, this is one of the things about one-of-a-kind finds. This incredible mirror, we'll never see that again. That was really made from fragments of, I'm sure, broken pieces in Italy, and then someone created a mirror out of it with the minimal Swedish bench below. You know, it really is the focal point. The kitchen, you'll see all the French doors and the exterior door that opens onto their courtyard that really wraps around the entire home. So it's really living inside out. And I love their collection of confits and platters and cutting boards. It just has this rich, homey feel that, you know, when you create atmosphere like this, you really don't want to leave home. Their exterior dining has arras chairs and garden chairs from France. That's a little exterior cooking oven, but it is a sublime way to live. The fountains are on 2 sides of the home, and then there's the pool. So there's the constant running water. And this is just a snapshot of their collections. The next home, a 30,000 square foot, 5-bedroom home, makes the best kind of canvas, an opportunity to compose a collection using storied pieces as building blocks to furnish in a distinct personality that will evolve over time. I think the last sentence is the most important, will evolve over time, because that's what your home does. You know, it's not collecting in a day or a month, but it's really been a journey for me, and it's been the evolution of my home. So this is the foyer of this lovely home, and it's anchored with an 18th century Italian chandelier that had petals. And what we wanted to do was connect the petals to an art installation by Bradley Sabin that's on the wall. This is a Spanish 18th century table that anchors Renda Saporito's art. And then this was a Beaux Arts fireplace that was reclaimed from a Northwest mansion that we used in this home as their living room fireplace. So that's an overview of the room where you see just the contemporary fun chandelier layered back with storied pieces, the pair of 18th century mirrors, and it was the collection here that we'll be able to move around to different rooms as his home evolves. Break down the plan, proceed room by room, piece by piece. Start with the heroes, the memorable, worthy, head-turning objects that strike a dramatic note, then fill in around them, complementing or contrasting against them as you go. So these are items that are in the home that we started collecting. Really, the chapter is called Starting from Scratch. So there's the terracotta vintage urn. You know, it's not really about shopping all the time in Europe, because you can find incredible pieces on live auctioneers, Sotheby's Home. So in the back of my book, I give you a shopping guide on my go-tos in the US plus in Europe. And so that's a incredible brutalist sculpture that I'd found on Magazine Street that's anchoring that 18th century cupboard in their dining room. So it's just a mixture and a layer of pieces that bring harmony to this home. There's the dining room in full view. So it's vintage, it's contemporary, it's mid-century, because the family is youthful and they wanted to start a journey on collecting. This is a powder room downstairs. It's anchored with an antique mirror over a contemporary RH vanity. Their entryway, which is, as you look through that straight ahead, you're going into the living room in this home, but you're going to see how well all those periods play together, whether it's the 18th century mirrors, the contemporary lighting, the vintage Pedro Friedberg chair. The kitchen is anchored with a pair of almost lanterns and just layered back with accessories from Europe. This is the master sitting area, 18th century mirror frame over the contemporary chaise lounges. The boudoir, the 9x9 custom bed that we made. I'm so proud of it. I was really proud when it fit through the French doors. The exterior of the home has this garden bench that is right outside the mudroom. We found a pair of these in Europe, but it was a big wow factor. This is me shopping in Europe. You know, I'm looking for things I haven't seen before. This is a fair in Arezzo. You know, they'll have monthly fairs, and I break that down in the shopping chapter of the websites and how to connect to the fair dates. This is the Paris flea market. There's just none other. This is unloading of a container. Of course, that's staged, but that's Brother Luca. So, you know, there's nothing like unloading a container. It feels like Christmas. And back to the cover of the book, Soul of the Home.
Wonderful, Tara.
Thank you.
Delightful presentation. We have, I think, a couple of questions in the chat room. If people have any other questions, let's see what we have. From Caroline, Tara, what are your thoughts on decorating with antiques and young children in the house? We were expecting our first, and I'm slightly concerned about the olive oil jar I bought from you 2 years ago that is currently located in the family room.
Well, you know, Caroline, this is what I have to say. Most of these things have been around, you know, 160 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. What could my family do to them? That's what I love about antiquity, and I embrace it. I don't refinish it when it comes into my home. You know, I love the bumps and the scrapes. I might put that olive jar outside in a garden, though, for, you know, a baby. But I would certainly embrace antiquity. I think it's probably the best furniture you can buy for children.
And from A.K. McFall, she says, such beautiful rooms. The pieces are generally somewhat large, hard to manage in a small home. What are the biggest mistakes people make on their own? And have you worked on any small homes?
Oh my goodness, yes. I would say not having a plan is probably the biggest mistake that we come in and remedy, because I believe there should be continuity in the home. You know, what we do is we do CAD drawings and scale furniture to make sure that that bed really does get through those French doors. But you know, there are things that are so much smaller. Now, remember, the Europeans were very petite. So if we're working in small rooms, we're going to use a different scale of furniture.
And she also asked, I'm guessing that you created the arched areas in which to place the two large church paintings. Is that true?
Well, I didn't create the arched areas. Really, it's normal, I would say 10 foot, maybe 11-foot ceilings. I don't remember. So it doesn't have an arched area, but the paintings are arched. What we had to do with one of the paintings, AK, was because one was longer than the other. And we did cut it. We cut the bottom of it. We asked the owners if they were okay to lose, I don't know if it was 2 inches or 4 inches, but so they would be the same height. And, you know, not impede with the crown molding. Because then you get into another problem. Do I remove the crown molding? You know, does it only come off in one room? The great thing was they were pliable. And I want to really cause the least expense. I wanted to make them a focal point. So really it was just cutting them to the right height.
And AK also asked us, how often do you go to Europe for your buying trips?
Well, you know, that's really changed right now. And I hope they welcome us back soon. But when I first started, I was going, you know, I was going probably every 2 months. And then I would stay about 5 weeks at a time. So now when I got married in 2007 to Robert Walsh, I limit myself to 3 weeks when I go, and I'm really ready to go.
I had a couple of questions from someone emailing the questions in, and they wanted to ask how to decorate it with inherited antiques.
You know, first I want to say you're fortunate that, you know, you inherited a piece. It's the balance of the old and the new. Let's say you inherited a Victorian chest. I would use a beautiful contemporary vibrant painting over that. You know, that could be in your foyer or it could be bedside. I love working with inherited antiques. Now, one of the things that I'm not very keen on is antique seating, like Victorian seating, because sometimes it's just not that comfortable. But I believe, you know, it's the balance that makes it feel current.
And another question, well, this is kind of a broad one, but she also asked how to decorate with brown furniture.
Well, you know, I would say in the 90s when country French was very prevalent, it was all brown. And in fact, there's a big brown comeback right now. But what I do is I don't do all brown. I take painted furniture with authentic finishes, whether it's Swedish or contemporary, and that's how you have a room that has personality. Because if it's all brown, it's going to feel very flat. So I would take the brown furniture, let's say you have a big brown table, and I would put painted chairs with it.
Is that true that brown furniture is making a comeback? I guess I've always been hearing that the younger crowd really is not, you know, they don't really like their inherited furniture and they're going for a more contemporary look.
Well, I believe that, it can be a trend. That's the whole problem is now you have furniture that you like for 3 to 5 years. But what I've seen really happen is there's so much influence from shelter magazines and from books that are being written that are showing antiquity. I think antiquity is really making a comeback. And it shouldn't be all contemporary, nor should it be all antiquity. But when you take those and you use that as a formula for your home, collecting pieces that you love and marrying it back with fresh current pieces, your home looks rich and collected.
So let's see if there are any other questions from our people out there. Oh, AK had another question about, do you ever find the things in your containers get busted in transit? I would imagine that that's not uncommon.
The worst. It's the worst it's the worst problem. And we have this saying, shippers live in round houses. I mean, I've been chasing shippers for years. I'm like this, wait, I don't understand. It wasn't broken in 300 years, but somehow you managed to break it. Can you tell me how you did that?
I imagine your shop is full of things getting repaired after they get out of the container.
Well, this last shipment, I think it was about 8 to 10 pieces, which, of course it's your favorite pieces. But the funny thing is you can get a lot in a container. Like a 40-foot high cube container can house 200 pieces. And typically it's not being broken inside the container. It was the transit from, let's say, Italy to the warehouse, or the transit from the south of France to the packing center is where it gets broken.
Oh, so we have Carolyn's asking when you plan on opening your store.
So right now we're doing the electrical and carpentry. I'm so excited. I feel like we could be about 3 or 4 weeks away.
Oh, that is exciting. And AK also asked, are you bilingual or
Oh, it was so funny because all my family lives in Austin, Texas. My language of choice was Spanish. So, because I would go and negotiate for harashas and pearl handled knives, all those must haves, as a child. And I'll never forget, I took French classes, private classes. And before I took my first journey, and I had all my notes, and I ordered my first meal. And I ordered strawberries swimming in a julep sauce. Not the best lunch in Paris, but the worst was when I jumped in the taxi to tell him, of course I speak this Southern French, and bless his heart, it took like me saying Marche Puce Porte de Clingecourt about 10 times for it to finally register that I wanted to go to the flea market. So I have said all sorts of things. I was having dinner with friends of mine in Toulouse, right outside of Toulouse, and I'd stopped at Xavier to pick up cheese for the dinner. And, I was conversing with them. They're French, and they are nodding their head up and down. And then they said at the end of the meal, did you realize you told us that you didn't like working with goats? So, so yes and no, AK.
I had a question for you, Tara. When did you get into the business? I know it's been over 20 years, but what brought you into the business? And, made you pick that as a career path?
So it started at LSU. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was standing in front of my second grade student teaching class, and I had this epiphany that I had totally missed my calling. I thought, I am in deep trouble. I'm in deep trouble. And I had a meeting with myself, and I said, what do you spend all your money on? And I thought, well, my gosh, I spent all my money on clothing, on apparel, on shoes. I mean, I was like a shoe maven. So I decided that I would go into the apparel business. I will never forget, I flew to New York. I got off at the Port Authority. I took the Port Authority bus to the garment district. I knocked on doors at the garment district until I came home with multiple lines to represent at the Dallas Apparel Mart. So I started that journey. First, I started with one showroom, then I had two showrooms, and I traveled really a 7-state region. So one of the lines I represented was called Crazy Horse. It was purchased by Liz Claiborne. It was a game changer for me because at that time I could then buy one nice piece of furniture a year. So that was when I started really reading shelter magazines, cover to cover. I was reading every design or decorating book I could find because I knew I didn't want to make a mistake. So I had to fine tune what my first piece of furniture was. So there I went out looking for a desk. I came home with an armoire, but I thought, well, what if I took this wholesale philosophy? I was in the apparel industry selling wholesale to stores. What if I took that and I used that same formula with furniture from Europe? And then I could keep one nice piece, a container, which is the ones. So I'm trying to figure out how to furnish my home. That's how it really all started. I shipped in my first container. I had just moved to New Orleans, and I shipped it into a mini storage on Chapatoulas called Public Storage, bright orange doors. I'm sure y'all are all familiar with that. I put it in there and I unloaded it. My friends helped me wax the furniture. And it was so interesting. I was really in there praying. It was just a word of mouth thing. I told designers, I told storefronts, I told friends. I'm in there praying and I'm thinking, oh Lord, because I had used all my money except one house note for the house I had purchased on Perrier, and I was trying to figure out how to furnish it. Well, I had used all my money for this furniture, and I thought, Lord, what if this is like a yard sale and nobody shows up? Well, I rolled up the roll-up door, and people, they ran in. Everything sold in 10 minutes. I didn't have a bank bag. And I didn't really make that much money, but I'm like this. It was the fish and water experience. I thought I found my calling.
That's a great story. I can imagine that, there's just got the adrenaline flowing when everything's sold out quickly. You're ready to plan another trip right away.
Absolutely. Tomorrow.
AK asks, what wax do you recommend for furniture?
I love Duguay wax. And, we would stock it in our store, but then it got very tricky after 9/11 to still ship waxes and things like that in your container. So I love a walnut wax. And it's just a warm tone. It can go on so many things and not make it too dark, but give it just this rich warmth. I know Gay Worth, I think, sells wax worth more, but I would just recommend any French wax that you can buy that's in a walnut.
Well, I do not see any other questions, but this has really been delightful, Tara.
Thank you, Brent.
Charming presentation, and we wish you well in the new shop.
Thank
And
you.
I know the book is already doing well at the bookshop, and I know that's going to continue to do well. I want to remind people that if they would like to get a personalized copy, just to give us a call at the bookshop or order it online, and we'll be happy to take care of that for you. So for everyone, I want to thank you again for coming to our presentation with Tara Shaw. Tara, thanks very much.
Britton, thank you for having me. I'm just delighted.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.